just wanna tell you how I feel. I'm pretty sure everything's been said. Someone else come around, my brain go dead. Rushing in familiar territory, leaving things unread. All the red flags gone with rose.
It's your girls, it's your girls. Ooh, it's your girls, it's your girls. Thank you for pulling back up on us. Welcome back to We Ain't Got It Yet. It's your girl K.E.
It's your girl Consuela.
Woo! And y'all, we got some big time folks on here today. Lord Jesus, let me go ahead and give it to you because it's when I tell you, when I give it to you hard, I give it to you long on here today. She's an American actress and comedian. Over the course of her career, she has been the recipient of a number of awards. When I tell y'all she's been nominated for 90 and won 59, been crazy. She's been won a Grammy Award nomination for Best Comedy Album. She played a role in Precious. That should give you a key there. She has many awards, and I heard in an interview that the NAACP award that she's won is probably the top one that she's won for her. So as I say, welcome Miss Mo'Nique and her husband, Mr. Hicks.
Woo!
How y'all doing?
Wonderful. How y'all doing?
Great now.
I'm going to tell you like my mama say, can't complain, it won't do no good.
Come on.
Right
Come
on.
on.
Right on.
Well, tell me a little bit, man. We had a podcast not too long ago, and we talked a little bit about gender and equity on that podcast, and we tagged you on Instagram, and you jumped at the invite to be on here. Talk to us a little bit about that decision. Why would you want to be on this podcast? It's a little small podcast.
Well, when I see my sisters out there swinging, we in this together. And when I see my younger sisters out there swinging, and I'm saying these babies get it. They get it. So when I responded and said, hey, I appreciate what y'all are saying because you can see through the bullshit. So when you said, hey, auntie, would you like to come on? I said to my husband, hey, daddy, these babies got a podcast and they want us to come on. He was like, let's go. I said, because they talking our language.
Hey,
We appreciate that.
Definitely appreciate
so
that.
much.
Definitely trying to speak y'all language because that's the same type of time we on, man. Respect and people doing what's right, and we appreciate what you're doing for us. And when I say us, you may be in the acting industry, but the things that you're doing, that's gonna translate to every other industry because of the expectation there.
Mm-hmm. And not just you, even your team. Like you're so nice, communicable. Like everything was so well organized, very professional. Y'all just, I don't know, sweet people. Like there's nobody can say anything bad to me about you, your team. None of it. We really appreciate y'all for taking time to come and be on with us.
Thank you, babies. Thank you. Now, there's one thing you said, my baby. And I said, when I talk to her, I'm going to tell her what she said. You said, you know what? They listen to Taraji because she pretty. I was like, well, what am I? They ain't listen to my fat ass because I'm ugly and fat and black.
No, that ain't what I meant. That ain't what I meant, auntie. That ain't what I meant. But you sure right. I got to get that together. I'm gonna gather that back. You know what I was trying to say.
I was right there with you, baby. I was right. I said, when I see it, yes.
Here we go.
Well, just jumping right in. So it's been very public and, known about the different hardships and situations that you come into in the industry. And the one thing that I find so admirable is that you took a stand and said no to powerful people. So how did you gain that courage to be like, you know what, I don't care about the status, like, you're going to do right by me or not have me at all? Like, how did you gain that courage and not be afraid to stand up to these people in power?
You know how when y'all were in elementary school and you first got started and your mamas and your daddies said to you, don't let nobody bully you. I don't care who it is, don't let nobody bully you. Well, we've never let go of those principles. That's all. So, and I think we get caught up in that word power and we get fearful and we back up and we back down, which allows the bully to keep on going. So we've just always held on to that principle. We didn't care who it was. If it was right, we were going to stand in it.
In that, did you ever have any fear of like, oh, well, I may not get work after this?
I didn't get work.
Across your mind?
Did that come across your mind? Like, after I stand up to these people who are in these higher positions, these are people that everybody kind of looking up to as far as their industry. How did you think about it then? Like, oh, if I say this might happen. Tell us a little bit about that.
I'm going to put it as simple as I can. I'm married to a king. So I never had to flinch. I never had to be nervous. I never had to worry. And I remember the night that it hit, that I was blackballed and I was all these things. My husband took me by my hands and said, Mama, we're going to be okay. And the truth will catch up. And I believed every word he said. So I never felt like, oh, if I would have just not said that, or if I would have just not said this. No, because I'm looking at y'all too, that I am responsible for as a black woman. And I'm looking at these younger black women. And if I keep on bending over and I keep on saying, come on, give it to me, what y'all got coming? So there was never a moment. Now, I will say this. There were moments that I missed it. There were moments that I would cry because I was like, I did it right. And I missed that part. But I never backed down from the part of, no, this is not right. Mm-mm. Was you get ready to say something, Dad?
Nah, I was just waiting. I'm listening to you because that's the reality. It's like both of us are from Baltimore, Maryland. So we know what it is to be in the fight at the Sandlot, and the same bullies that you had to meet back in the day, the same people you meet moving forward. So we never been impressed by anyone in the sense of, because of who you are, we're going to treat you differently. You're just as valuable if you're a person who live in the street as you are if you live in a mansion to us, because everybody has an expiration date. So at the end of the day, it was one of those things where there's this story that we've heard in reference to this mythical being named Jesus. Seemed to walk on water, do everything right. Somehow they still had a way to crucify him. So if that's the case, we ain't never walked on no water.
We ain't do it.
We ain't never create no miracles. So guess what? What do we have coming? The only thing we can do is look at the situation for what it is. If we wrong, we say we wrong. If we right, we going to say we right. And it doesn't matter if it's Tyler Perry, Oprah Winfrey, because folks say some very powerful people. Oprah Winfrey has an expiration date. Tyler Perry has an expiration date. We all have that. And with all that's taking place, nothing but love for them, because you understand that there's a level of programming that we as black people has been imposed on us to be fearful. We're just not those ones.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because I was gonna say something along those terms too. But as far as like the Netflix special, I want to let you know that I watched that, and as I watched it, I think you said your husband told you the people need to get to know you, and I think that you did an awesome job us experiencing you and who you are outside of comedy and getting to know you. But as far as the Netflix special, and I know you can't talk about the settlement and stuff like that, but tell us a little bit about the issue, a little bit more, to remind us as we enter into that conversation about gender and equity, because I want to talk a little bit more about the pay disparities. Talk a little bit about more about it.
Well, when you looked at what they were publicizing, it was nothing that I made up. They publicized Chris Rock's numbers. They publicized Dave Chappelle's and Amy Schumer. And they all were labeled, Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock, they were labeled as legends. But they publicized everybody's numbers. But when they publicized Amy's numbers, she said, I'm not a legend. So I shouldn't get what the legends are getting, but I should get more. And she did. Well, when we had our conversation with Netflix, they referred to me as a legend. So when it came time to say, well, why won't I get the same thing that those legends got? What is different with my legend to their legend? And that was pretty much what it was. And I wasn't going to back down, sisters, because there are some black female comedians out there right now, some babies that's not here yet. And if I would have accepted that, then those babies would have had nothing coming. If I would have accepted that number, I got to think about Samoa, Adele, Cheryl Underwood, Miss Laura, those ones that was right there with me. It's like, guys, if I take it, then what do you think they're going to offer y'all?
And individuals who had commentary to say about that number didn't realize that if you work a job on a daily basis and you have a friend that you making 15 an hour and your friend turned down a $40 an hour job because they know they're supposed to make $100 an hour, people will have a tendency of looking at their friend and judging their friend by what it is that they're getting, not understanding that their friend is saying, well, I've trained people that make $100 an hour. So why would I not get that? Essentially, when you're a black woman, the same resume that they would utilize when they're evaluating someone who is white, whether man, whether woman, is not the same evaluation and the same metrics that are being used with you. Many people aren't aware that Mo'Nique is the first black female comedian to ever have a sitcom that went into syndication as a co-star or a star of a show. Not to mention a comedian that wins an Academy Award and multiple around the world, an award-winning executive producer, the whole nine. So if I went on and on, people would be like, especially the ones that don't want you to hear this, they'd be like, enough already. So basically, you understand it's a popularity contest. And if you're willing to play the game, if you watch the RNC, you see individuals who slammed Donald Trump now standing up on stage singing his praises because the tide has changed. And people have a tendency of going with the mob. As a kind of paraphrase, Mark Twain said something along the lines, if I find myself on the side of the majority, I need to pause and reevaluate myself. So that's essentially, what took place with that. We had to evaluate.
Yeah, come on.
And as you say, evaluating value and metric, that's my biggest thing. How are they evaluate? How do they go and value us or the metric? What are they using? Because to me, if she has all of these accolades and you're calling her a legend, how is she offered $500,000 when somebody who may not even have those type of accolades are getting 11 million? Do you think race is involved in that?
Listen, if I could throw this water on you right now, little niece, I would splash it right on you until you stop that shit.
But for me, I think it's because when we look at our customers, like we don't really go buy a lot of stuff. We're not going to buy a lot of tickets. We don't go to a lot of different places. When you talk about metrics, like how are we going to make money back as far as like, bringing you into this segment or that value? That's my biggest concern. That's why they won't be paying us a lot. Look at the WNBA. Caitlin Clark comes into the WNBA. Now it's a $2.2 billion deal that they're getting for media rights. We ain't just start playing basketball.
Right on.
So how do you guys think those metrics play into the businesses?
Oh my God!
I was just going to say, the entertainment business is just a microcosm of the macro economic structure that's designed in the world we live in. So it's going to play a part where it's not till white folk understand that they're in the same pot as us, and they use the black and white to divide us, starting as far back as the Bacon Rebellion, when William Berkeley came to the understanding that, hey, these poor whites and these poor blacks came together and almost overthrew us. We've got to find a device to allow them to be divided. And that was the beginning of this thing we now know as white privilege, because they bestowed upon them not wealth, but privileges that black people weren't able to have. So now if we fast forward to where we are today, that same dynamic is taking place. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say that as it relates to Netflix, unlike Tyler Perry to this day, unlike Oprah Winfrey, and like Lee Daniels, they at least came to the table and heard a black woman out. And we were able to resolve it maturely. So you got to give props where props is due. And this woman right here was able to do a movie with Lee Daniels on Netflix, and where, it was an amazing cast. And to their credit, they treated her amazingly. And it was a level of parody that I think that through the conversation that took place, we were allowed to come here, because ultimately the real reason for war is peace.
Love that. While we're talking about the special, it's kind of
Illegal
pivoting,
speechless.
kind of pivoting away. Well, staying on the Netflix special, but I guess it's more kind of like a personal question, I guess you could say. So you've been very open about the things that you've experienced in life, as far as like the molestation and things like that. And so I watched the special on Netflix. Would you say that you use your comedy as somewhat of a coping mechanism?
I think there was a time. There was a time that I did, because when I started comedy and for years in, I was mentally ill. Just, they say if you keep doing the same thing, but you expect different results. Well, I kept doing the same thing for years and expected something different. And to walk up on those stages at that time in my life, it was because now they were laughing with me. I wasn't worried about this situation or that situation. I had a group of people in front of me that was laughing with me. And there were times that I really needed that in my life. There were times that I really needed to walk up on that stage. That's why I'm so appreciative of that family. I don't like saying the word fan because it's short for fanatic. I don't like that word to say, those are my fans, but those people were my aunties, my uncles, my sisters, my brothers, my nephews, my cousins. And those hugs at the end of those shows, when people say, oh my goodness, Mo'Nique, you give the best hugs. But I was getting the best hugs back. So, at a time it was a coping mechanism. Now it's a great time. And I don't need that coping mechanism. It is just a great time to walk on that stage.
Hey, I as a person who's kind of experienced that too, in some ways, I thank you for that because I needed that. But we love the fact that y'all are so unified and together as one. So most people would say you shouldn't do business or be managed by like family or close friends or spouses. So maybe y'all have separate answers. Maybe you have the same answer. But can you tell us like how y'all managed to make that work for y'all and like no negativity?
Well, I think the first rule of logic is that there is no one rule that's applicable to every situation. So you have to go on a case-by-case basis. My only interest when I would go on meetings and things like that with her when she had other management was to create projects in which she was not just the talent, but also executive producing over. It was literally, I liken it to if you've ever seen the movie The Godfather, when Michael Corleone's father went to the hospital and he heard there was going to be a hit. And it was at that moment where he got involved in a different kind of way and had to move forward in that way. For me, I never wanted to be Mo'Nique's manager. I wasn't even thinking about that because her brother was her manager. And there was a situation that took place where she looked at me like,
I need you.
And I'm like, I'm not coming in between y'all and on this. And then she looked at me like, nigga, look. It was one of them. Like, this ain't one of them, I'm just asking you to stroke your... She was like, I seen you. We've been in too many meetings together. You told me what was going to happen all the way through the meeting. We leaving out, and I'm looking at you like, how did you know it was going to go like that? And the conversations you've had with management, she was like, if you don't stop playing. So at that point, what I wasn't going to do is get socked in the mouth by my woman, who we've been best friends since we was 14. And I'm like, all right, let's rock. And, just like any other individuals, you're not going to be in each other's life for 42 years and not have disagreements. But it's the way you disagree. And it's with the understanding that when we talk to each other, it's with the understanding that this conversation is for where we're going to be from years from now, not talking in a way like you don't realize that there's a tomorrow. So, that's the best way I can answer it.
That was the best advice you could give us for having a strong black woman where you gotta, sometimes you gotta handle it a proper way. Everybody ain't able to move like that, Mr. Hicks. You teaching them something today, buddy.
and I'm gonna tell y'all something. I was a handful.
I just know it.
Okay.
Sagittarius right here.
Yeah.
And I still am, right? But he knows. You ever had he knows me better than I know myself. And he's paid attention to me in a way that I didn't pay attention to myself. So when you're in a meeting and a white man stands over top of you and say, y'all just handle the sexy part and you let me take care of the rest. And then my husband says, you tell me the man that takes care of your family. I don't need you to take care of my family. We just need you to handle the business. No other manager ever would say anything like that. When my brother was my manager, baby, listen, and deals that were being made and conversations that were being had. And there were times my brother had me looking like I was starving just based off of his circumstance. So to have my husband by my side, we have each other's best interests. When it's right, when it's wrong. And we've had to have some conversations that's taken me to my knees, sisters. We've had to have some of those conversations where he would say to me, you don't get it right now, but you will over here. So there were conversations that years later, I had to say to him, I apologize because I finally got it. And we're talking about years later, but there's not a better person, in my humble opinion, that will have you better than the person you lay with every night. Because if they don't have you, then who does it harm? The whole family. And I had a young lady say to me one time, I was doing an interview with her, a young sister like y'all. And she said to me, aren't you scared to have your husband around? And I said, why would I be scared to have my husband around? She said, you don't think that's going to make you look weak? And I said, is that what y'all think? That if you have your black husband around, your king, we're going to now appear weak? And let me say this, please, because it is only my humble opinion. To hear that young lady speak like that, I said to myself, she's gone to the Oprah Winfrey School of Independency and Empowerment, and we don't need a man. Without her ever saying it, right? So the reason why I always say I want my husband on this interview, because not only is he my husband, he's my business partner, he's my manager, and there are some questions he can answer because he is in those rooms. He is on those conversations. And I'm grateful for that because I am the black woman. If I think you violating, baby. Violating. And my husband, he's had to say, ladies and gentlemen, I was trying to prevent that from happening, but let's move forward. So, I think for y'all, if you do have that spouse or you have that mate and they're interested and you're interested in what each other does, why wouldn't you fight for it together?
If that's your setup. I mean, again, it's like if you're by yourself, you don't need to strike out to find a man to be with. You need to work on yourself.
But I want one.
She's trying to get a man every podcast.
And when it's supposed to happen, I can assure you it will. But sometimes we're in a position where we're by ourselves because the universe is saying we need to work on ourselves so that when that right person comes, you can be an addition as a couple where you can be two independent thinkers, but you operate as one unit. So as long as, because in the industry we're in, they like to create competition among couples. It's a battle. And as long as you don't let the outside affect your inside, and when the outside is trying to break you up, you allow that to make you go closer, because it's never been a situation. If we only had to bow down to what Tyler Perry and them said, if you only could work for free when you didn't have a contract, God damn it, where could we be now? Where could we be, Daddy? Avoiding looking at ourselves in the mirror. That's where we would be. So since we couldn't do that, we said, listen, we know what it is. We understand the people that are afraid, and we never ridicule those who are afraid, because if you put a spider or a snake by me, I don't want none of that. So please don't judge me because I'm afraid of spiders and snakes. So when we see them, we back up, and with others, because they're afraid of what can happen to them. And we've been programmed as Black people. What can happen to you if you don't do what Massa say? Then, it takes individuals like y'all, when you talk comfortably and confidently in reference to how things should be, to make a change. What Mo'Nique does when she's communicating, a lot of individuals that look just like you that are her age don't understand. Listen, if I got it and they want to mistreat me, what do you think they're going to give to you? And recently with the Screen Actors Guild strike, there are more white people that are in the Screen Actors Guild. I believe it's like 65% being governed by 85%. And then you have a small number of Black people, but there were majority white people on the picket line. So if being white really mattered, why were there so many white people out there on the picket line? Because the game is of the elite to separate the folks that walk by each other every day on the street. So once certain folks that are Caucasian wake up and understand, we still got to pay the same price for the food that you pay, and vice versa. And if y'all out there struggling, what you think the Black people are doing out there? Because they get paid less than you, and you mad about what you get. So
that's a fact. I do got a question to follow into that one. This is for Mr. Hicks specifically. What do you think the industry's beef with you is? Like, why are they so upset with you personally for doing your job? I can't figure it out. I think for me, I think they see you as just like her husband, but you're well spoken. You understand the business. You have her always in mind, but I can't see you overstepping your boundaries just because it's your wife. So what do you think their beef actually is with you?
Can you name several people that have spoken out in reference to the inequities associated with the business? Taraji's one, right? Who else have you seen? Viola Davis?
Yeah, definitely Viola Davis. That's correct. Yeah. As far as actresses and actors, those are two for sure.
You heard Dave Chappelle speaking about how he got treated unfairly, signed a bad deal, right?
Correct.
How many of them did you see their managers or agents next to him?
Are you on to something now?
Sometimes it's not what you see. Sometimes it's what you don't see. Sometimes it's not what you hear. It's what you don't hear being said. So by me sitting here next to her and I'm articulating on her behalf what transpires, I'm validating her lived experience. When you don't see these individuals next to her, as we were told by one of her former managers, after he did the right thing and we were in a meeting, but he became fearful because he thought he might have ruined the relationship because he spoke truth, if you will, to the proverbial power. And he felt he ruined the relationship. And he said the quiet part out loud. He's like, guys, you don't get it. Artists come and go, but the business is going to remain. So we got to maintain our relationship with these business entities. Now, he didn't know he was signing his death certificate as he was talking, because that's saying that you're not going to do what's in the best interest of your artist. You're going to do what's in the best interest of your company to maintain those business relationships with the other folks. So by me being there, that disallows them to violate her in the way in which historically has been a paradigm for Hollywood and, again, all the other business entities out there. So I think that's part of it. And I don't really look at it as personal. And what happens is, if one person says it and then you pile on, and then I'm a black man, how in the world could I understand business? How in the world could I be well spoken? How the world
No,
could
Ruckus.
yeah. How could I know anything about business? I'm black. I'm her husband. So it's easy for me. And I'll end with this. I'll never forget when we were talking to Lionsgate, the lady who had called us before we spoke to Tyler Perry, she said, what is it that we could do to get Mo'Nique to go to Cannes? And I simply said to her, after her trying to initially say, we're going to give her first class accommodations, we're going to put her in a 5-star hotel. Okay, well, that's what you're supposed to do if somebody was contractually obligated to do that for you, of her ilk anyway. So they came back and then they said, well, we'll let her stay a week later in France, on us in the hotel. With these, no, thank you. They left, came back. What do you think we could do to get her to do this for us? I said, did you have a dollar amount that you'd like me to go back to her with on your behalf? Oh, what? We don't pay people to promote. I said, if we don't owe her anything, I said, well, the reason why you're asking me what it is that you can do to have her do this for you, and you're not going back to the contract, is because she doesn't owe you anything either. Well, I know. When she found out, because she thought I was the attorney initially, when she found out I was her husband and manager, then she said, oh, now I get it. And that's when the whole tide turned. Now we can blame that Negro. That's her husband. And then that's when we heard from Tyler Perry.
And I can see that, man. People don't challenge the models or the historical foundation that's not correct. And as I say this may come off a little ignorant, but I truthfully believe that. Like, why aren't restaurants paying the waitresses themselves? It's because we keep allowing them to make us pay them.
Yes.
So that's the same. That's the same thing. Promotion is free. Y'all been doing promotion for free, but we ain't got to do that no more. And putting that right now, putting your foot down. I think if everybody starts standing on that, like you guys have, I think things would change. But until then, it's not gonna happen. Which is why we brought you on. We ain't got it yet. Because until people start doing what you've done, things will never change. I don't care about no job. I'm like Mo'Nique.
She don't. She gonna leave.
I don't care about no job. If you do something that is not right in my eyes, I don't care what y'all have done here before. I'm me. And you're not gonna treat me that way, and you're not gonna treat somebody who I work beside that way. Because if I see you do them like that, and I don't check you, then you're gonna do me like that.
Yes.
So when stuff like that happens, because it's almost as if people aren't used to seeing a strong black woman with a backbone. So when they say that you're bitter or hard to work with or whatever else they put out, how does that affect you? Or does it?
Well, the first time that I heard I was difficult and I was all of these things, I was like, yo, I did it right. Like, I did it the right way. And before I can go into my cry, he said, you ever heard of this story about this cat named Jesus? He said he did everything right and they still found a way to kill his ass. So you think they're not going to talk about you? Okay.
That's a fact.
That checked it. It checked it. It's like, who am I not to get those blows? And I read the stories before me. I read Eartha Kitt. I read Louise Beavers. I read Ada B. Wells. I read Hattie McDaniel. I read those sisters that had to take those ass whoopings and was still saying, I'm not going to back down. So now, excuse me, Daddy, as they're long gone, now we tell the story. Now we're just getting to know who Claudette Colvin is. And Claudette Colvin was the young girl who got put off of that bus first before Rosa Parks. Now, Claudette nor Rosa Parks were the first ones. They were in that era. But for years, that woman had to sit in and watch Rosa Parks receive all of these accolades about being the first one and being courageous. And all along, y'all knew that baby that was 15 years old, that had nappy hair, and whipped those white police officers behind, that baby whooped their ass. Like it took 4 of them to get off. So I love that, right? So she wasn't the story to sell because it was not going to make white people feel comfortable. So as I said earlier, we were having a conversation. I said, Daddy, I feel like, in my humble opinion, Taraji and Mo'Nique is the modern day Claudette Colvin and Rosa Parks. Because everyone knows, and again, I don't take the credit and say I'm the first one, because there were plenty before me, just in this era, who stood on it and stood up. And then when we saw our sister be broken and literally falling apart in front of our eyes, that was accepted. And that's why.
Question.
I'm
I'm sorry.
Babe.
I'm sorry.
No,
you
you go
paused. I didn't know you were still talking.
Go ahead, Sugar.
Has anybody reached out to you in regards to what you've done? Any other actors or actresses in support? Has anybody reached out in regards to that? Or is everybody quiet? Is it radio silence? As they watch you lead
The
the
ones
way?
that have reached out would surprise you. Her name is Roseanne Barr. And she kept reaching out. Her name is Suzanne Douglas, who our sister is no longer with us. It was the real ones. It was the ones that understand the business. I think for the others, they may have been scared. They may have been fearful. If everybody going against Mo'Nique, y'all better back up because we don't want what she's getting. So much so that people that I broke bread with, people that we laughed together, we cried together, all of a sudden began to have a problem with me. Okay. And I'm like, what is this high school shit? What is this mean girl shit? So I'll give you a great example of a conversation I had with our beautiful sister, Sherry Shepherd. We were having a conversation. She had come to one of the shows on the road with Cat Williams' tour. She had come to one of the shows. And I had asked her to come into my dressing room so we could speak, because when I saw her and Kim Whitley do that review on the movie, and then they said it's that personality of hers. So I don't play the behind the back shit. I don't play I said, I'm going to see them one day. And that was the day. And I said, hey, Sherry, my security went and got her and asked her, would she mind coming into the dressing room? And when she came in, I said, hey, sis, when have you and I ever had a crossword with each other? Well, we haven't. I said, right. So to watch you do your podcast with Kim Whitley, and she said, when I praised you, I said, and I appreciate that. I said, however, you went on to speak about that personality of mine. And if you could, while we're face to face, tell me about the personality of mine. And then she said, well, Mo'Nique, not every black woman agrees with you. And I said, well, Sherry, tell me what it is that they don't agree with. And then she said, I'm not going to get into all that with you. It's just that personality. I said, well, Sherry, I've asked you, what is it about my personality? So now I'm not going to get into a high school girl thing where you can't answer the question, because you and I don't have a problem. And I still don't have a problem with Sherry Shepherd. So I said to Sherry, when she couldn't answer the questions, I said, Sherry, we no longer have to speak again because I can't play like that. If you have something to say to me, it's just you and I in here, say it. And then she said, well, you and your husband forced Tyler Perry to say those things.
What things?
That we forced Tyler Perry to say.
That's what I want to know too, Mr. Hicks. What did you force these billionaires to say?
But I know you want to know.
Thank you, baby. We forced him to say he was sorry. We forced him to say he was going to make it right. We forced him to do that. And I said, Sherry, it is sisters like you that keep us under the totem pole. Because you heard that man on that tape. You heard that black man say he wronged me. And now we forced him to do it. I said, that's why we don't move further in a place called Hollywood. And I won't just put it on Hollywood. It happens every day where there are some black women, I cannot say all, but there are some black women that you can see the rape. You can see the rape. But that black woman will say, well, she shouldn't have wore a skirt that short. And as long as we have that, it's always an uphill battle. Now, let me say this. I've only heard good things about Sherri Shepherd when it comes to being down for black women. I've heard black women say, Sherri Shepherd told me how to work my deal out. Sherri Shepherd told me this. So it's like, Sherri Shepherd, if you can hear it, it's not he said, it's not he say, she say. It is factual. But because you're dealing in emotions, that's why we can't move forward.
So this whole story that you gave brought back. We were talking, and you said, when you speak about me privately, I'll speak about you publicly. And let me just say, that is like one of the things that I love the most about you. We were on the phone talking. I'm like, Mo'Nique will like get you together in a very elegant and calm way.
Nice nasty. That's what I call it. Nice nasty.
It's like your tone is so soft, but it's like I'm standing on business when I say what I say. So
I've been trained. I've been taught. And my husband had to teach me how to be a lady. Because there was a time I would have said, you raggedy mother, and there was a time, baby. But he said to me, Mama, they won't hear you like that. You let them escape when you do that, because they'll say, oh, I don't have to. So he's taught me, and I've watched him have conversations where, as I kept saying to Sister Sherri, tell me about what you're saying. If there's something about my personality, you might be on to something that I'm not seeing, sister. So please tell me. But now don't become the school ground bully. And now we're face to face. Well, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm not going to go do that. So I say to the young sisters listening right now, if you're having conversations and you can't say the same thing in front of the person that you said behind the closed doors, shut your mouth. Because people will cash your check.
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing is, and obviously you know this, auntie and uncle, that people don't like to be called out on their mess, man.
They don't.
And they don't like going back to kind of what you said about Sherri saying that you forced Tyler to say that. I think when it comes to like power structures and then us idolizing different people don't want those individuals to be challenged, because then you got to see them as a human. And that they made a mistake. And then, bingo, why not just apologize? I blew it. I failed. You're human. You do that. Instead, we hide behind certain power structures. And I've seen that happen a lot in the sports industry. People hide behind, oh, I'm the head coach, or I'm the athletic director, and I'm this. And if you made a mistake, say you made a mistake, and that makes people respect you all the more. Just as Lee Daniels has. You guys were able to work together again. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Him attempting to make it right, having you in another film in a future project, I think that's the way to do it.
Yes.
Right on. And if you ever hear the audio, when Tyler Perry says, I'm going to make it right, just not right now because y'all got it too hot out here. And then you'll hear him on any given Sunday pontificating about how he conducts his business with the eloquence of a verbal Mozart. But then you need to work. You need to wait until things cool off because we got it too hot, but then never come back out. It's like for a man who will speak on Joel Osteen's platform and T.D. Jakes, I would say, what would Jesus do? Would Jesus wait until things cooled off? Wrong. Would he wait until it wasn't so hot? It's like, no. So what happens is you hit it right on the head. It's one of those things where the world, he doesn't understand the magnitude of help it would do to our community, because it takes people out of this intellectual limbo where it's like, I love you, Tyler, because you are so successful in business. And I don't want to go against you. Like I always say, I wonder how many people really believe in Jesus, or are they fearful of their neighbors for them not believing in this being that has not yet showed up for them. Would we know about this being if your parents never told you about him? How will we know? So when we start thinking for ourselves, and as our late great ancestor said, it's a dangerous thing when the universe taps you and tells you to put on the magic glasses. Because when you put on the magic glasses, you see the world and things as they are and not how you want them to be. And the second part is you can never take them off. But the biggest thing you got to remember when you put on the magic glasses, you can't make anybody put them on. So when you understand that, this is why we say, listen, we're not mad at those folks. They just haven't put the magic glasses on yet. But it appears that you two are wearing them right now.
Come on now. Come on now.
Come on now.
Are these things on?
Come on.
Ain't it beautiful?
Come on. Come on.
It is. It is. And I think, as I say this, I don't want to come off like I'm just viewing things as they are not. But I really feel like people know from right from wrong. they know from right from wrong. And I think it goes back to, again, what I said. It's the power structure, and people want those people to be in those levels. But I think people like us two and you two, I think you're more respected if you just apologize. And as I say this right now, I know you deserve apology, Mo'Nique, but Tyler Perry and Miss Oprah Winfrey, would you please just apologize to Auntie? Because like we said, it's all about the community. It's all about us coming together. I don't know why we waiting on it to stop being so hot. We all know now. It ain't no secret. It ain't no secret. What the hell we waiting on? We waiting on 10 years down the line where you think we forgot because we still going to talk about it. So I think if you just go ahead and just do what needs to be done and let's move on because we all heard the tape.
That's it.
Uncle Shay might not say he heard the tape. He may not repeat, but I heard the tape and I'm kind of disappointed.
Listen.
It's a young sister who looks up to these people. I wish he'd just come on here and just apologize.
Uncle Shay had to say it because I wasn't going to let his ass not say it. I'm like, I need you to say it. He was looking at me like, Mo'Nique, damn it, not today, Shannon Sharp. Today you're going to have...
And for him, I guess, he in the business world, he got money, he don't want to lose out. Hell, we ain't got shit, so we don't care. We gonna call it like it is, we gonna call it out. Maybe it's gonna keep us from getting it, but at this point, we gonna say it because it need to be said.
Right on.
We need warriors like y'all.
Thank you. So we working our way up. We trying. But
trying.
while we talking about things being hot, So you said something about white men spewing mess amongst the black community. Was that about a certain
DJ
that does interviews on YouTube?
Just like y'all don't want to say his name, neither do we. But we all know who we talking about.
We on the same page. Okay. We just had to throw that one in there.
But say what you said again, though, just clearly so people can hear that. What did you say again that Mo'Nique said?
It was about a white man spewing mess amongst the black community.
Oh, yeah. I'm saying DJ Vlad. Yeah.
Hey. Yeah. I wanted to say, I don't know why people keep going on that man podcast. He the feds.
Definitely.
He the feds. I ain't seen nothing the man done did to help us, to be honest. And we ain't got it yet, but we trying to get it. But I don't see him trying to help people progress. I think everything just got to be real messy. And I'm with y'all. Just like y'all said along the lines of the D.L. Hughley interview and how that stuff went down. If it don't promote our community, what we doing?
And when we had a chance to review who he was and how he was in other interviews with folks that look like us, that's when we said, there's no way we signing any release form for you to utilize Mo'Nique, because it wouldn't make sense and we doing our community a disservice. To which he wrote a letter apologizing in the essence of Lee Daniels, and then has come back out with all these names that I am and everything. And it's like, look, I'm 57 years old. I'm too old to be calling names, yelling and arguing with you, because it's laughable, and I can't even get mad at that dude, because we see the writing on the wall. At some point, he's going to over communicate, and people are going to realize who he is. It started with that professor, where he was talking about he was going to reach out to the university, and everybody got on him. It's like, listen, because he'll pay people for interviews and so forth, and offered us several $1,000s to do an interview. And as we explained to him, you don't get it. This has nothing to do about money. This has everything to do about the spiritual assets that we've accrued and going to keep accruing. So you keep your money, but unless you change up who you are, we couldn't consider it, because I believe our brother Damon Dash coined the phrase culture vulture. That could be applicable to that dude, in my humble opinion.
Agreed.
Y'all heard it here first. But we have a few more questions before we get ready to wrap up. We want to know, Mo'Nique, what is your Mount Rushmore for comedians? Who would you say? Who you got on there?
Oh, that's not it. Dead or alive.
You're Mount Rushmore.
Okay, it's my Mount Rushmore.
I mean, Mr. Sidney, if you want to do one too, hey, y'all can give y'all each.
I'm going to give it to the person standing on stage.
Richard Pryor, Bernie Mac, Eddie Murphy, Cat Williams, and myself. And I say that humbly. Can I put myself there?
If you so choose.
Yeah, this your Mount Rushmore. I was expecting you say number one now for you now. Hey, that really done drop. I'm worried. 1, 2, 3. When she gonna say Mo'Nique?
Okay, because but that I believe, yeah, for comedians, yes.
Okay. So we have a speaking engagement coming up soon, where we have to speak to teen girls. And so what advice or what would you say to those girls that may not be confident in themselves, or, don't have the courage that you had to stand up and, speak up for themselves?
The biggest advice that I could give is take your journey, because it's yours. It's your journey. And right now at 56 years old, I talk to the 80-year-old me. And I talk to the 25-year-old me. The 25-year-old still like to kick the door in. She like to pick up something and bust it in the head. But the 80-year-old me is saying, you know what you have to do if you want to get to me. So for those young babies right now, those our 10-year-olds and up, those babies right now that are going through it and trying to figure it out, you have to say to yourself, this is my ride. And let me give me the best that I can give me. Now, that's hard to understand at 10, right? But if you keep saying it, every day our granddaughter goes to school. She's going to the 6th grade. But since the 2nd grade, 3rd grade, when she leaves out, we say, run it. She says, I'm a leader, not a follower. I'm a queen in training. I'm a princess. And most importantly, I'm Black. Now, she's been now saying that for a few years. Imagine when she gets to the 12th grade. So for those babies, it's just not my words of advice. They're looking at 2 young sisters that y'all sat in those chairs closer than I did. So y'all understand their plight. And we can't sugarcoat our babies. You cannot go in there and sugarcoat them babies. You got to talk to those babies as real as you can talk to those babies, because that's what we need right now in our community. Don't quit on you.
I like that. Don't quit on you. Yeah, I like that.
So we normally do a "We Ain't Got It Yet" point to sum up our episodes, and so for this one, we decided that it would just be to always bet on yourself and do what's right, not what's pleasing to others.
Come on.
That was our "We Ain't Got It Yet" point for this episode. And again, we're just so glad that y'all took time out to be on here. But there are two small things that we do before we leave. One is we have this thing called an ick. So an ick is just what grinds your gears. It's just like, I can't stand that. So what are some of y'all icks? Maybe 1, 2, however many y'all want to give us. That you just like, I just do not like that.
What's your ick, Daddy? Cut.
Just people being unfair and people being under the belief that they're better than other people. Don't focus on being better than someone else. Focus on being the best that you can be, because if you beat this person that you consider your opponent by one step but not focus on being the best you can be, then you may have found out by focusing on being the best that you could be, you may have beaten that person by a mile. So just focus on you. And I'm sorry to go back. With the young ladies who you were speaking about, though I'm not a young lady, I would say it to the young men. Envision yourself as a parent. What are all the things that you would want your daughter to do and be? And when you write down that list, would you want them to cheat in school? Or would you want them to study? Would you want them to be honorable or dishonorable? Do you want them to look presentable or not look presentable? And when you go through the checklist of what you would want your daughter to be that for your daughter.
I like that.
Be that for them.
But you,
Auntie Mo, what's your ick?
Listen, okay. My ick is somebody that don't wash their ass. And you know you ain't washed your ass. And you sitting around looking like, who is that stinking? Bitch, it's you. That's my ick.
So there.
I felt that because when you, I'm gonna tell y'all, I referee. So when I was at the games last week, and I was like, "What is that smell? What is that?" You know how you get to checking yourself. I know that it ain't me, so I felt that.
Oh
And
my goodness. Okay.
My biggest ick is a bully. That's my biggest ick ever in the world. Yeah. That's my biggest ick. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, again, we thank y'all so much for coming. And so at the end of every episode, well, wait, time out. Do you have anything upcoming that you want? I know you have the Deliverance, the movie coming out in August. Is there anything else that you can tell us, maybe? I'm
actually going to be going to New York at Coso Fuego.
Daddy.
In the Bronx. When is that date, Daddy?
The 20th and 21st.
Of August.
Yes.
Of August. And then I'll be in Baltimore October 11th and 12th. Yeah.
Okay.
You gotta let us know when you in the South. We wasn't able to do this in person because of your schedule, but we would love to meet you in person when the opportunity presents.
Definitely, babies. Definitely. And y'all keep
our
going.
Last and final. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I said y'all keep going because you done gave us a last and final about 6 times.
I know. I'm sorry. I do it every time, and she's like, "You gotta stop that." I'm sorry. This really the last one for real. I promise. You promise. So we do this thing called Weekly Heat, and she just like gives this motivational piece to take our viewers throughout the week. So I know y'all got rhythm. I normally ask our guests to have rhythm. I know y'all got some rhythm. So before we do it, I say 1, 2, 3, and then we all say Weekly Heat. Weekly Heat. Okay? Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Weekly Heat.
Weekly Heat. I love it. Y'all up there with probably the top 3 off that. Okay. So let me give it to y'all. I always say this. I wrote this down and I'll be waiting on the perfect time to say it, and I think it's time. Most of the people we grew up with are either still at home in their comfort zones or living within their sight. As a black girl who grew up down the street from the projects, I want to remind you that you can transform. The vision is not limited to what you can see. See, those people who you think are privileged are only seen at face value. But you and me, we can transform and meet everyone's expectations constantly. Take all your experiences and use them and catapult yourself into your dreams. Sight is the enemy of vision. God is greater than what can be seen.
Come on now.
Right on.
So thanks again. We're so glad y'all were able to join us. And like we always tell our viewers, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see y'all next week.
I'll be damned if I don't get it for my children's children. And that's real.
Tell the truth, how I feel, like I'm the only one that's real. Can't be the only one that feels like holding you real tight till midnight. Tell me how you miss free throws, that's 3 points on the field. You think about another nigga, wanna be unfair for you, you're